The massive space station Concordia drifted silently through the void, its metal corridors filled with the soft hum of recycled air and distant conversations. Inside the main council chamber, representatives from 7 different alien species sat around a circular table that glowed with holographic displays. Ambassador Hyunwoo adjusted his translator device as he took his seat. His crystalline body caught the artificial light, sending rainbow patterns across the walls. As a member of the Zephyrian race, he was used to these monthly meetings, but today felt different somehow. "Order, please," called Chancellor Vextar from the center of the table. Her forearms moved gracefully as she activated the meeting displays. "Today we discuss the quarterly resource reports from all sectors." The other delegates settled into their seats. Captain Yevar's insect-like form clicked softly as he folded his wings. The aquatic Mirthani representative, Raythok, floated in his specialized water tank, tentacles swaying gently. Each species looked completely different, but they had learned to work together over the past 2 centuries. "The mining operations in Sector 7 show excellent progress," Vextar continued. "The old human territories continue to provide valuable resources for all our civilizations." Several delegates nodded in agreement. The human territories had been redistributed among the 7 species after humanity vanished 200 years ago. Most considered it ancient history now. Dr. So Jin, the station's chief scientist, raised her hand politely. She was one of the few who still studied the extinct human race. "If I may interrupt, Chancellor, I have some interesting findings from my recent dig on New Geneva." "Of course, Doctor. Please share your research." So Jin stood and activated her personal display. Small human artifacts appeared in the air above the table, rotating slowly so everyone could see them clearly. These items came from a human settlement that was abandoned during their final years. At first, they appeared to be simple tools and devices. The delegates leaned forward with mild interest. Human artifacts were not uncommon, though most were considered primitive compared to current galactic technology. However, Sojin continued, "When I examined them more closely, I found something unusual. These power cells contain technology we do not understand. The internal structure is far more complex than anything we have seen from human ruins before." Ambassador Hyunwoo studied the floating artifacts. "Are you suggesting the humans were more advanced than we believed?" "That is exactly what I am suggesting. These devices operate on scientific principles that our best engineers cannot explain. The humans may have been hiding their true capabilities." An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. The idea that humanity might have been more advanced challenged everything they believed about the extinct species. Captain Yevar's antennae twitched nervously. "Doctor, are you certain these artifacts are genuine? Perhaps they were contaminated by more recent technology." "I have verified their age through multiple testing methods. They are definitely from the final period of human civilization. But there is more." Sojin activated another display. "I found evidence that the humans were working on projects far beyond anything we discovered in their abandoned colonies." "What kind of projects?" asked Chancellor Vextar. "Large-scale engineering, space construction, energy systems that could power entire star systems. The preliminary research data suggests they were planning something massive before they disappeared." The delegates exchanged worried glances. If humans had possessed such advanced technology, why had they simply vanished? Why had their colonies been found empty and their ships abandoned? Before anyone could ask more questions, warning alarms suddenly filled the chamber. Red lights flashed along the walls as the station's emergency systems activated. The delegates looked around in confusion as the alarms continued to blare. Senior Monitor Dalho's voice crackled through the communication system, barely audible over the noise. "All delegates, please remain calm. We are detecting unusual energy signatures from long-range sensors." Chancellor Vextar immediately contacted the control room. "Dalho, what is the nature of these energy signatures?" "Chancellor, you are not going to believe this. The signatures are coming from the Sol system." The chamber fell completely silent. Sol was the human home system. It had been dead and empty for 2 centuries. Nothing lived there anymore. "That is impossible," whispered Ambassador Hyunwoo. "Sol has been monitored regularly. There is no life in that system." Dalho's voice returned, and now it carried a note of fear. The energy readings are massive, Chancellor. Larger than anything we have ever recorded. Multiple sources are powering up simultaneously throughout the system. Dr. Sojin stared at her human artifacts, which were still floating above the table. Her mind raced as she connected the pieces. Advanced technology, mysterious projects, and now, impossible energy signatures from the supposedly dead human homeworld. Chancellor, she said quietly, I believe we may have made a terrible mistake about humanity's fate. The alarms continued to sound as the delegates sat in stunned silence, each beginning to realize that their understanding of galactic history might be completely wrong. Somewhere in the dark depths of space, something was awakening in the soul system. Something that had been waiting, hidden and patient for exactly the right moment to reveal itself. The age of human extinction was about to end. Far beyond the edge of known space, in the cold darkness between stars, something massive began to stir. The habitat ship New Sol had drifted silently for decades, its 15-kilometer length home to millions of humans who had never seen a planet's surface. Commander Jin-Hei stood on the observation deck, watching as ancient systems came back to life throughout the enormous vessel. Lights that had been dim for years now blazed with full power. Engines that had been sleeping began their slow warm-up cycle. All around her, the ship hummed with renewed energy. Commander, we are receiving the recall signal from all fleet groups, reported Navigation Officer Taemin from his station. His fingers moved quickly across holographic controls that responded to his touch. The Exodus fleet is awakening. Jin-Hei nodded slowly. She had been born during humanity's great departure, when her people made the hardest choice in their history. Rather than fight a war they could not win against 7 alien civilizations, they had chosen something else entirely. They had chosen to disappear. What is the status of our sister ships, she asked. Taemin checked his displays. The habitat New Busan reports all systems operational. Neo Incheon has begun acceleration toward the meeting point. Admiral Minho's industrial platforms are already building the new ship designs. Jin-Hei smiled at the news. The truth that the galaxy had never learned was beautifully simple. Humanity had not died out. They had not been destroyed by war or disease or natural disaster. They had evolved into something the other species could never have imagined. Send word to Engineering Chief Sumin, Jin-Hei ordered. Tell her to begin the final preparations. After 200 years, we are going home. The engineering section of New Sol buzzed with activity as Chief Sumin and her team worked on systems that would have seemed like magic to the aliens back in civilized space. The humans had spent 2 centuries learning to live between the stars. They had mastered technologies that the galaxy's 7 species were still struggling to understand. Power output is stable at maximum efficiency, reported Engineer Dongwu. The new propulsion system is ready for full activation. Sumin checked the readings on her screen. The numbers would have been impossible by galactic standards, but humanity had long ago moved beyond such limitations. Excellent. What about the defensive systems? All barriers are functioning perfectly. Our ships will be completely protected during the approach. Sumin nodded with satisfaction. The defensive technology they had developed could stop any weapon the galactic civilizations possessed. But more importantly, it could do so without causing harm to the attackers. Violence was no longer humanity's way. On the communication deck, Message Coordinator Heiwan was preparing the broadcasts that would soon reach every corner of known space. She had been working on these transmissions for months, making sure every word was perfect. The translation matrices are complete, she told her assistant Young-Ho. Our message will be understood by all 7 species simultaneously. Are you certain they will listen? Young-Ho asked. He was young, born in deep space, and had never seen an alien face. Heiwan smiled. They will listen because they will have no choice. When our fleets appear around their most important worlds, they will realize that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. In the deep manufacturing bays of Admiral Minho's industrial platforms, massive construction robots were building ships that defied everything the galaxy understood about physics and engineering. These vessels were not just transportation. They were statements of purpose, demonstrations of what humanity had become during their long exile. The new ships are works of art, Admiral Minho told his construction chief, Kyung-soo. Beautiful, efficient, and completely beyond anything the other species can build. Kyung-soo watched as another completed vessel rolled out of the construction bay. Its hull seemed to shimmer with inner light, and its shape flowed like liquid metal frozen in perfect form. How many do we need for the return? Enough to position one fleet group at every major system in the galaxy. We want them to understand immediately that we could be everywhere at once if we chose to be. As word spread throughout the scattered, human fleets, millions of people prepared for a moment they had dreamed of their entire lives. Children who had grown up hearing stories of Earth began to pack their few possessions. Adults who had spent decades working in deep space shipyards shut down their equipment and prepared for departure. On the agricultural ship New Jeju, farmer Min-ji walked through vast growing chambers that had fed entire populations during the long exile. "Will we still need these farms when we return?" she asked her supervisor. "We will always need them," came the reply. "But now we can share our knowledge with species who still struggle to feed their people properly." Throughout the human fleets, the same conversations were happening. Teachers wondered if they would share their educational methods. Scientists debated whether to reveal their discoveries. Engineers discussed which technologies would be safe to demonstrate. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity was returning not as conquerors, but as teachers. They had learned something during their 2 centuries in exile that the galaxy desperately needed to understand. As the massive ships began their long journey toward civilized space, Commander Jin'e stood once more on her observation deck. Behind her, millions of humans prepared for the most important moment in galactic history. "Signal all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Tell them the exile is over. It is time to show the galaxy what we have become." The stars ahead seemed to shine brighter as humanity began its journey home. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council had turned into complete chaos. Delegates from all 7 species were shouting at once, their translators struggling to keep up with the rapid flow of panicked voices. Ambassador Hyunwoo tried to maintain order, but fear had taken control of the chamber. 17 systems, bellowed Delegate Rythak, his tentacles thrashing in his water tank. They appeared. Around 17 systems at the same time. How is that even possible? Captain Yevar's wings buzzed with agitation as he stood from his seat. "Our military scouts report these ships are nothing like the human vessels we found in their ruins. These are completely different designs." Chancellor Vextar activated the main display, showing blurry images captured by long-range sensors. The ships that appeared on screen were sleek and beautiful, with curves that seemed to flow like water. They were enormous, easily 10 times larger than the biggest ships in the galactic fleet. "Analysis from our science division shows these vessels move without any visible propulsion system," reported Dr. Sojin, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "They appear to bend space around them as they travel. This technology is far beyond our current understanding." Ambassador Hyunwoo studied the images carefully. The human ships seemed to glow with their own inner light, and their hulls reflected starlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Have they made any attempts to communicate?" "None," replied Captain Yevar. "They simply appeared, positioned themselves around our most important worlds, and then waited. They are just sitting there watching us." The fear in the room was growing stronger. Delegate Korthani of the Mining Guild spoke up, his rocky form grinding with worry. "They have ships positioned around our 3 largest mining operations. If they attack those facilities, our entire economy will collapse." "But why would they attack?" asked Dr. Sojin. "If they wanted to destroy us, surely they would have done so already. These ships could probably wipe out our entire civilization without difficulty." That thought made everyone even more nervous. The human ships had demonstrated their ability to appear anywhere without warning. If they possessed weapons to match their advanced technology, the 7 species were completely defenseless. Chancellor Vexitar was about to call for a vote on military mobilization when every screen in the chamber suddenly activated. The delegates fell silent as a human face appeared on all the displays simultaneously. The woman looked middle-aged by human standards, with short black hair, and calm, intelligent eyes. She wore a simple uniform that seemed to be made from materials that shifted color as she moved. Behind her, they could see what appeared to be a massive command center filled with technology beyond their comprehension. "Greetings," the woman said, and her words were perfectly translated into every language spoken by the 7 species. "I am Fleet Admiral Su-Jin of the Human Collective. We have returned." The silence in the chamber was complete. Every delegate stared at the screen, unable to believe what they were seeing. Humans were supposed to be extinct. They had been gone for 200 years. Admiral Su-Jin continued speaking, her voice calm and controlled. "For 2 centuries you believed us dead. You divided our former territories among yourselves. You built mining operations on our old colony worlds. You treated our abandoned settlements like archaeological sites." Ambassador Hyun-woo found his voice first. "Admiral, we thought your species had died out. Your worlds were empty. Your ships were abandoned. We found no signs of life." A small smile crossed Su-Jin's face. "You found exactly what we wanted you to find." "Humanity did not die, Ambassador. We made a choice. We chose to leave rather than fight a war we might not survive." "But where did you go?" asked Dr. So-Jin, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "We went into the dark spaces between stars. We learned to live without planets. We built new homes in the void, and spent 2 centuries becoming something your species have never imagined. We became truly free. Captain Yevar's military training took over." "What do you want from us? Why have you returned?" Admiral Su-Jin's expression became more serious. "We returned because the galaxy we hoped for never came to pass. You still fight over resources that should be abundant. You still compete for territory when the universe offers infinite space. You still think in terms of scarcity when abundance is possible. Are you here to take back your old territories?" asked Chancellor Vextar carefully. "We no longer need territories," Su-Jin replied. "We have moved beyond such limitations, but we are concerned about the path your civilizations have chosen. You have the potential to become so much more than you are." The delegates exchanged nervous glances. This was not what they had expected from a supposedly extinct species. Admiral Su-Jin spoke like someone offering help, not demanding revenge. "Tomorrow, we will demonstrate some of our capabilities," Su-Jin continued. "Not to threaten you, but to show you what becomes possible when species learn to work together instead of competing against each other." "What kind of demonstration?" asked Raithak, his tentacles still with worry. "You will see. But I want to be clear about one thing. We did not return as conquerors. We returned as teachers, hoping to find students ready to learn. Whether that happens depends entirely on choices you will make in the coming days." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The delegates sat motionless, trying to process what they had just heard. Humanity was not only alive, but had apparently become something far more advanced than any of them had imagined. Outside the station, human ships waited patiently in the darkness, their alien beauty a reminder that the galaxy was about to change forever. Admiral Su-Jin's face appeared on every screen across the galaxy at exactly the same moment. On space, stations, planetary surfaces, mining facilities, and trading posts, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to watch. Her image was crystal clear, her voice perfectly translated into every known language. "People of the galaxy," she began, standing on the bridge of her flagship. Behind her, the command center stretched far beyond what the cameras could show, filled with technology that seemed to pulse with living light. "Yesterday, your leaders learned that humanity has returned. Today, you will understand what that means." In the council chamber aboard Concordia, the 7 delegates watched with growing anxiety. Chancellor Vextar gripped her chair with all 4 arms while Captain Yevar's wings buzzed nervously. They had spent the entire night debating what humanity might do, but none of their theories had prepared them for this. "For 2 centuries, you have built your civilizations on the assumption that we were gone forever," Admiral Su-Jin continued. "You took our worlds, claimed our resources, and divided our territories among yourselves. We do not blame you for this. You did what seemed logical at the time. On the mining world of Kareth 7, thousands of workers had gathered around public screens to watch the broadcast. The massive automated facilities that extracted valuable minerals from the planet's crust continued their work in the background, machines that had been running continuously for decades. However, Sujin said, and her tone became more serious, we must now show you the truth about your current situation. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Your fastest vessels cannot catch us. Your most secure networks are completely open to us. As if to prove her point, the demonstration began immediately. On Kareth 7, the enormous mining machines suddenly stopped working. Not broken, not damaged, simply stopped. Workers ran to check the control systems and found everything functioning normally, except the machines would not respond to any commands. Then, just as suddenly, the machines started again. But now they were working differently. The extraction rate had increased by 30%. The energy consumption had decreased by half, and the environmental damage had dropped to almost nothing. New components had somehow been added to the machinery while it was stopped. Components made from materials no one recognized. The same thing was happening across the galaxy. On the military base at Vex Prime, the orbital defense platforms went offline for exactly 60 seconds. Then came back online with improved targeting systems and more efficient power supplies. Communication arrays on dozens of worlds fell silent, then resumed operation with better signal clarity and increased range. We are not destroying your technology, Admiral Sujin explained as reports of these incidents flooded in from everywhere. We are improving it. Every system we touch becomes more efficient, more sustainable, and more beneficial to everyone who uses it. In the underwater cities of the Merthani homeworld, the massive water purification systems that kept millions alive suddenly began working at levels far beyond their original design. The water became cleaner, the energy costs dropped dramatically, and waste production fell to nearly zero. Ambassador Hyunwoo watched the reports with amazement and terror. They are inside all our systems simultaneously. They can control everything we have built. Dr. Sojin was frantically taking notes as each new report came in. This is not random destruction. They are systematically improving every piece of technology they touch. It is like they understand our machines better than we do. Your science is based on competition for limited resources. Admiral Sujin continued from the screens. You fight over energy sources because you believe they are scarce. You battle for territory because you think space is limited. You hoard knowledge because you fear others will use it against you. On the agricultural worlds that fed the 7 civilizations, farming equipment began operating with impossible efficiency. Crops that should have taken months to grow were ready for harvest in weeks. Soil that had been depleted by years of intensive farming suddenly became rich and fertile again. Food production doubled, then tripled, while using less water and energy than before. We learned something different during our exile, Sujin explained. We learned that the universe offers abundance to those wise enough to work together. Energy is infinite if you know how to harvest it properly. Space is unlimited if you are willing to build homes between the stars. Knowledge grows stronger when it is shared, not weaker. Captain Yevar stood up from his chair, his insect form trembling with emotion. What do you want from us? Why are you doing this? As if she could hear him, Admiral Sujin answered, We want you to understand that your current path leads nowhere. You can continue fighting over scraps while the universe offers unlimited plenty, or you can learn to work together and share in true abundance. The demonstration continued for exactly 1 hour. When it ended, every major system in galactic civilization was working better than it ever had before. Power grids operated at peak efficiency. Transportation networks moved goods faster and cheaper. Communication systems connected the farthest worlds with perfect clarity. This is our gift to you, Sujin concluded, a glimpse of what becomes possible when species choose cooperation over competition, when they choose to build together instead of fighting alone. Her image faded from the screens, leaving billions of beings across the galaxy to contemplate what they had witnessed. The humans had demonstrated power beyond imagination, but they had used it to help rather than harm. In the council chamber, the 7 delegates sat in stunned silence, finally understanding that their entire civilization was about to change forever. 3 months after the demonstration, Chancellor Vextar stood nervously in the docking bay of the human flagship New Terra. The massive vessel orbited Earth, which was no longer the dead world they had believed it to be. Through the transparent walls of the docking bay, she could see the blue and green planet below, alive with forests and oceans that sparkled in the sunlight. "Welcome aboard," said Admiral Sujin as she approached the delegation from the Galactic Council. Behind her walked 12 other humans, each representing different aspects of their civilization. "We are honored that you accepted our invitation to meet." Ambassador Hyunwoo looked around the docking bay with wonder. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed gently with soft light. The air smelled of growing things and flowing water. Everything felt organic and natural, despite being inside a spaceship larger than most cities. "Your vessel is beautiful," said Dr. So-jin, struggling to find the right words. "It feels alive." Council member Haewon smiled warmly. She appeared to be middle-aged, but something in her eyes suggested she had lived much longer than her appearance indicated. "All our ships are grown rather than built. We learned long ago that the best technology works with nature, not against it." The human delegation led their guests through corridors that curved and flowed like natural caves, but were filled with technology that seemed almost magical. Gardens grew along the walls, providing fresh air and food. Streams of clean water flowed through channels in the floor, powering systems and creating a peaceful sound. "How many people live on this ship?" asked Captain Yevar, his wings folding with nervous respect. "Approximately 2 million, replied Council Member Dong Hyun. "But New Terra is just one of our habitat ships. The human collective includes over 50 vessels like this one, plus hundreds of smaller specialized ships." They entered a large meeting room where the walls showed images of space around them. Earth filled one wall, while the other walls displayed views of the human fleet positioned throughout the solar system. The ships were beautiful, each one unique, like enormous works of art floating in the darkness. "Let us speak plainly," said Admiral Sujin as everyone took their seats around a circular table that seemed to be carved from a single piece of wood. "You have come here because your civilizations are facing a choice. You can continue on your current path, or you can join us in building something better." Chancellor Vextar leaned forward. "What exactly are you offering?" Council member Haewon activated a holographic display that showed technical diagrams and scientific formulas. "We offer to share our technology freely, faster than light travel, that requires very little energy. Medical techniques that can extend lifespans indefinitely. Industrial processes that can create anything you need without harming the environment. Agricultural methods that can feed entire civilizations using minimal space," added Council member Minseo. "Educational systems that help every individual reach their full potential. Organizational structures that allow millions of people to work together without conflict." Dr. Sojin stared at the technical displays, her scientific mind racing to understand what she was seeing. This technology could solve every problem our civilizations face: hunger, disease, resource scarcity, territorial conflicts. All of it could be eliminated. "Exactly," said Admiral Sujin, "but there is one condition." The galactic delegates tensed, waiting to hear what humanity would demand in return for such incredible gifts. "You must prove that you can work together," continued Council member Dong Hyun. "Species that choose cooperation over competition will receive our full support. Those who continue to fight and conquer will be left to their own path." "What does that mean in practical terms?" asked Ambassador Hyunwoo. "It means no more wars over territory or resources," explained Haewon. "No more exploitation of weaker species. No more hoarding of knowledge or technology. When conflicts arise, they must be resolved through discussion and compromise, not violence." Captain Yevar shifted uncomfortably. "And if some species refuse to change their ways, then they will find themselves increasingly isolated as the rest of the galaxy moves forward," said Admiral Sujin simply. "We will not force anyone to change, but we will only share our gifts with those who demonstrate wisdom." Over the following months, the transformation of galactic civilization began, The Zephyrian Collective was the first to embrace the new paradigm, establishing joint research projects with human scientists. Their crystalline cities soon glowed with new energy sources that provided unlimited clean power. The Myrthani followed, quickly, creating underwater habitats that floated through space like living jewels. Young Myrthani worked alongside human engineers, learning to build with living materials that grew and adapted to their needs. The Kepler Collective took longer to adapt, their rigid hierarchies struggling with human organizational methods that valued individual creativity within collective purpose. But eventually they too began to change, discovering that cooperation produced better results than their old command structures. Some species, like the warlike Drachmori, rejected the human offer entirely. They continued their aggressive expansion, but found fewer and fewer species willing to trade with them or fight against them. As former enemies became allies under human guidance, the Drachmori found themselves increasingly alone. A year after first contact, Dr. Sojin stood in the observation deck of New Terra, now serving as the first non-human member of the Human Collective Council. Below them, construction had begun on a massive space habitat designed to house representatives from every cooperative species. "They thought we were extinct," she said to Admiral Sujin, who had become both colleague and friend. "Instead, you became exactly what the galaxy needed." Sujin nodded, watching young beings of many species playing together in the habitat's growing parks. Evolution is not just about survival. Sometimes it is about becoming something greater than you were before. The stars around them seemed brighter, now full of infinite possibilities for those wise enough to work together toward a better future.